Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another one with me, Miss Whitney B. So, excuse me. Before we get into the content, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And you guys know I always want to hear about your sign symbols and synchronicities and the different tips, tricks, and tools you're using, and also how the video resonates. Like, what content you guys are loving, what is like really helping you to advance and to grow, and like helping connect the dots. Because as we connect the dots for ourselves and then share how that happens for us, we invite others to wonder what that could look like for them and to experience that level of upgrades too. And so I'm back with another one. Today we're going to be talking about a breadcrumb that I had from a reading, and I've been going through some things, and I know in a couple of my other videos I've been talking about how like I get going, right? And I'm doing great, and I'm like vibing high, living so high and feeling so good and manifesting left, right, everywhere. It just comes out of nowhere. Gifts and words of confirmation and affirmation and love and care and just so much. It's been so good. But then also I'll experience some contrast and I'll dip. Now, when the contrast is something I've been doing a lot of work on and feel really confident in, the dip is just quick. It's just like a whoop, okay. Now, when the contrast is an integrated shadow that has to be faced, loved, honored, and healed, surrendered, respected, accepted, and then integrated back in with compassion, I'm noticing I'm having more struggle. Like I just went through 3 days and I was really triggered. And yes, there are always extraneous things going on in my life that can be triggering, like such as life, right? But usually I can bounce back really quickly. And this time, not so easy. And so what I had been noticing is that my reprograms were happening in that moment and shifting within minutes to an hour or 2 hours. Well, I shifted with this, but then I went back down, and then I shifted and I went back down. And so I'm like, okay, what am I missing here? What's going on? Because I know anytime this happens that I'm triggered, right? I know what I'm experiencing. I know what I'm feeling. I know it's a cry from my inner child to get support and to be supported and to be loved. But what the heck is this about? Well, got a breadcrumb in a beautiful form of a reading. And I was like, when I first started listening to it, I was just like, are you sure this is what's going on? Like, this is definitely not my like regular experience. And Spirit was saying, no, it's not. But when you dip and go into that space of not being able to align and reprogram through the contrast, this is what's going on. And I was like, oh. So what the video was talking about was overgiving and oversharing, and how it's a form of manipulation. Actually, and it's emotional manipulation, and that it leads to a sense of entitlement. And I was like, oh shit. Yep, got it. I know that. And how I know that is that that's been reflected to me. And these are things that my twin has personally reflected to me in different forms, both being, when I do this, getting contrast, saying like, no, don't do that. And then also giving it back to me in the form of emotional manipulation. And I was like, oh, wow, I could see his really clear where he's trying to emotionally manipulate me. But what I didn't see so clear was how I was emotionally manipulating. And I was like, oh, got it. And she was talking about how when we overshare and we overgive, and then when it's not reciprocated, it hurts. And it hurts because we go into that place of entitlement where I deserve because I do all of these other things for other people. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. That is totally it. And so I've done a lot of things to heal right? And guess what? The theme of that is codependency. And I was like, oh man, I've done so much work around codependency, right? Like getting good boundaries and learning about boundaries. Where do I end and begin? Where do others end and begin? How to make boundaries like supporting of me, right? But not so inflexible that I don't allow others in. And I'm like, wow, okay. And I've learned about self-care. I've learned about how important it is to, meet your needs, to be your own soulmate. Like if you want or need something, you give it to yourself. Like, yeah, okay, I've done that work. I learned all about that. And then also to surrender and allow divine timing and the divine plan to work itself out as it goes, right? Oh, totally done that. Well, so I've done all those things, which is so perfect as to why this is coming up right now, because those are all really wonderful, solid, stable boundaries and pillars to build upon. And I was like, oh, so now there are these little pieces of shadow still lurking that need love and integration. And so what I can do is turn to my self-care, my boundaries, my self-love, my surrender and my trust in the divine and myself and my inner being and my higher being and my inner knowing and my intuition to then reprogram through the contrast of the shadow and then actually face the shadow and tell it the truth. And so I'd done a card reading earlier this morning about myself and I was like, what is going on? Like what needs to happen here? And Spirit was like, you need to tell the truth to the illusions. And I was like, okay, I thought I was doing that. And Spirit's like, yeah, you're totally doing that. Great. Okay, but this is another place that must be done. And I was like, oh, got it. And so I was like, wow, I really feel like I've been telling the truth to myself. I've really been pushing my own boundaries to be authentic and to say the authentic truth and to not take BS for myself or others or to allow disillusionment, because it would be easier than speaking the truth. And so that was something I had to really work on because I don't really prefer conflict. I don't like the way it feels. I don't like the way it embodies. I don't like to feel angry or unhappy, but they're realities of life. And so I have done a lot of accountability work to be aware as best I can of myself and of how I can meet those needs and face those fears so that I don't feel like I'm in survival mode and can't have quality and take the best care of myself and live the best life. Because what I learned over 2020 is that best life and quality, they're a perspective. It's not, I mean, yes, it's a physical way of being. And once I acknowledged that perspective and lived in that mindset and started choosing that mindset over and over and over again and taking actions, inspired action that fulfill that mindset, what I realized is that it wasn't this big, beautiful thing outside of me, that it was right here within me. And that when I care for myself and fill my cup, I feel like I'm living my best life. I feel like I'm experiencing intimacy and love and friendship and care and kindness and joy and expansion and miracles and surprises and delights. I feel like I have a full cup. And so all of that brought me back again in this video to, okay, so here, what can be done to face the shadow and to give love is to accept the shadow, to honor the shadow. This shadow is here. The need to emotionally manipulate to feel safe is because that wasn't given as a child. And so I did not feel safe. And so I knew that through my experiences, which Spirit is saying to me now, like most of us, was passed down through a family line. So I didn't just come in and start doing that. I was taught that behavior. And so were many others. So if this is resonating with you, you're likely a person who was taught that in one form or another and passed on through generational wounding. And that gets passed on through the ego. And the shadow is absolutely ego. Absolutely. It's where a separation has occurred. And so I'm like, oh, this is anchoring so much in. And so what to do here is to love yourself, give to yourself, care for yourself, look at that self, hold that self, hug that self, love that self that's caught in that shadow, and tell that self how good enough the self is and how, yes, that may have happened, right? But that was the point, was to learn the lesson, to do that work so that we could be here in this place at this time doing these things. And so I'm just like, oh, so again, that leads right back into the the four pillars of divine timing and divine planning, like knowing everything is always working out for me. The whole universe is conspiring for me, not against me. When I line up with that, there are beautiful signs, symbols, and synchronicities and recognition for that everywhere I look, right? And then also boundaries. Taking accountability with yourself is a boundary. It's saying, you know what? I won't take your shit either. I won't take anybody's shit. I want the truth. I want the whole truth, and I want nothing but the truth. So you will be real with me, even if that's me to me. And so I wrote some little things down because Spirit was talking to me earlier before I made this video, and they were saying, like, so this is the devil energies. If you guys are familiar with tarot cards or with readings, there's been a lot of devil energy. Well, this is the trauma. The devil energy is the separation from wholeness. It's the separation. It's the illusion. It's the delusion. It's the pain and the fear and the places that we're trapped and not in wholeness. And it's not truly a trap. It's a perceived mental trap, because at the end of the day, there is no separation. Separation isn't real. It's an illusion. It's a delusion of the mind. And so, bam, got it again, right? And so what they were saying was acknowledge the devil energies. And for me, this devil energy plays into, I've been healing my anxious attachment. And yes, all of these pillars have really helped me move from anxiety in most things. But there are obviously, with this shadow aspect that showed up, that there are still things that I have work to do. And so my twin and I are polarized at the time in any of the shadow aspects, with anxious avoidant or anxious attachment and then avoidant attachment. And so I'm like, oh, so heal the anxiety, heal the separation, heal the places that you don't feel whole or free or in oneness. Just give care to yourself. Have fun with the conflict, the contrast, because look, it's a beautiful way to align. That's the beauty of the contrast, is it helps us to expand and to align to what we truly do want. And so it was so awesome. Spirit is saying, okay, acknowledge and surrender to the devil energy. Accept it. Acknowledge it. Look at this illusion in its face and say, I see you. I understand you. I understand how you could feel that way. I acknowledge that this is where you are, that this is what you've been through. And I love you for that. And that makes you so good enough. Okay. And then turning to that self and telling it the truth. But the truth of the matter is, now we don't ever have to choose that again. That's the beauty of free will, is that we've gone through all of that and we've learned all these lessons, and now we don't have to make those choices anymore. Boom, telling the truth, right? And so again, be authentic with yourself, because yourself will always know when you're lying. And use my words as like seeds or food for thought, or even contrast, like however you want to tell yourself, however it feels authentic to you. Just tell yourself, look yourself in the mirror and give yourself that love and that respect. That's what Spirit's saying. Look yourself in the eye, respect yourself, celebrate yourself, meet yourself where you are and say, you are so good enough. I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm grateful for you. You have been doing the work, and that work is beautiful and amazing and awe-inspiring. And I am absolutely delighted for the beauty and the unfolding and the growth and the lessons and the learning and the expansion. And so just going into that honoration, and as you do that, as we do that, as I do that, we surrender. We let go. We're fearless, because we're free of fear, because no matter what, somehow, some way, it's going to work out. Somehow, some way, it will work out, and our need will be met. Our desire will be had. The experiences that we are hoping for will happen. Okay. And then they're saying, just, that's the leap. It's all these things in one. So in that little scenario I just played out for you, you're letting go, you're giving up, you're learning to see things in a whole new way. You're letting go of fear. You're saying, I'm powerful, I'm divine myself, and that Spirit will meet me there. My higher self and my greater, and all the beings coming in the greatest good are supporting me. And even ones that are not, still rooting for you, even if it doesn't look like it. And then letting go of the past and the fear of repeating. So that was something else Spirit said, is that this is happening because there's a fear of repeating. And so honor that illusion. And actually, Spirit's saying it's not an illusion. You can't co-create. You can't create another repeating of that. And you will continue to create that until you honor it and let it go. And so I'm like, oh, so you got to integrate it and accept it, Acknowledge it, listen to it, accept it, then love it, have compassion and understanding for it, and then integrate it back into the whole self with love and compassion. And so, yeah, integration work as a soul. So how to honor and integrate an aspect of shadow, of a shadow aspect of self into the self to create wholeness. All right, I'm just going to triple check. I'm triple checking my notes right now to make sure that I haven't forgotten anything. Spirit saying, highlight that this is a codependent behavior and that it was taught to you. Don't feel blame. Don't feel guilt. Don't feel shame. Just look at yourself and take accountability for your actions. Spirit is saying, if it is showing up in your reflection in the world, then it is yours. And so if right now you cannot see that it is about you, but you can see that it's happening out in the world around you and to you, wonder about how you're doing it and how you can heal and integrate this into wholeness for yourself. All right, guys, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you on another one.